Did you ever watch the Beverly Hillbillies and wonder what if the reverse happened? Instead of country folk living the suburban socialite life, what if pampered city slickers moved to a fixer-upper in the sticks? Well, Green Acres was the place to be. But what does this lighthearted show have to do with a NASA tragedy? And why was it canceled after a very successful 6-season run? I'm Nostalgic Nick with Do You Remember? And fact-finding is the life for me. If you enjoy our rustic reunion, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And subscribe to the channel so you catch our next trip down memory lane. A full harvest of inspiration. These days, the idea of leaving the hustle and bustle of the big city for simpler pastures is a popular one. Hallmark often gives us the fairy tale side of it in movies, but Green Acres still stands out as one of the most memorable takes. But where did the premise come from? Show creator Jay Summers got a first-hand look at the big city-to-country move. Growing up, his stepfather wanted nothing more than to own his own farm. And when he won the agricultural lottery and got his wish, a young Jay Summers wasn't nearly as excited. Check that, he hated it, especially hoeing potatoes. And into adulthood, he refused to do any gardening on his own. But sometimes you have to face your fears, and Summers did just that with his 1950 radio show, Granby's Green Acres, an 8-episode summer series. The principal characters were a married couple played by future petticoat matriarch Bea Benaderet and Gail Gordon. These characters under different names originated on Lucille Ball's My Favorite Husband, which would later become I Love Lucy. This is some entertainment royalty for sure. The Hillbilly Connection.
The Hooterville Community Players are proud to present the Beverly Hillbillies.
If the fish out of water premise sounds familiar, that's because it is. Beverly Hillbillies and Petticoat Junction enjoyed so much success that show creator Paul Henning was given the green light to fill another time slot. No pilot required. He recruited Petticoat Junction writer and Green Acres creator Jay Summers, and together they turned his old CBS radio show into a fleshed-out sitcom. And keeping with this shared origin, all three were in the same universe, with plenty of crossover potential. In fact, both sets of Hooterville residents run into each other from time to time, and host characters like Floyd Smoot, Sam Drucker, and Newt Kiley. Song for everybody.
Fresh air.
The open country and urban jungle have never been compared so well as in Green Acres' theme, and we have Vic Mizzy to thank for that. Of course, Vic has proven himself a musical mastermind, since he's the brainchild behind the Addams Family theme. He based this tune around a riff called Shave and a Haircut, 2 bits, and Mizzy also composed for Doris Day and the Andrews Sisters, and wrote In the Middle, a public service jingle about jaywalking.
Don't cross the street in the middle of the block.
But the Green Acres theme was the first time a sitcom song was sung by the series leads. The Monkees would follow suit a season later in '66. But Eddie Albert and Ava Gabor will always be the very first. And Ava did it on her very first try without any musical background. The Elusive Hooterville. If you've ever wanted to pack it all up and restore a farm in Hooterville, here's what you need to know. Like many of the sitcoms of the day, Green Acres never named the state it was in. It helps everyone think they could be near the town of their favorite sitcom. But we do have some hints, like Oliver needing to change planes to get to Chicago. We also know Springfield, Illinois is 4 hours away. And then there are the vacations to Eldon, Missouri. Summers once talked about a farm in Greendale, New York. So maybe we can say it's somewhere on the right side of the country? I don't know, tell me if you have a better guess. Among the Stars. If you're a fan of Green Acres, you've got good company. After his time in the Oval Office, none other than President Eisenhower enjoyed this quality television show. His whole family was into the show, even naming the valet's pig, Arnold, who was allowed to sit on fancy chairs even though the kids couldn't. Another fan, another masterful television creation. The Simpsons' Matt Groening ranked its theme song third behind his own show and The Jetsons. And Green Acres had other fans in high places, serving a pretty important cause. January 28, 1986, a very grim day when the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded. And so, the team who was working on NASA's next big endeavor was pretty grief-stricken, understandably. But Catherine Sullivan, the first American astronaut to do the spacewalk, came up with an idea to boost morale. She was in charge of wake-up music and called in a radio station to play funny space music. One of those songs was actually written to the Green Acres theme by Vic Mizzy. Powerful people.
You'll just make out the check to cash. It'll save a lot of trouble between me and the government.
Mr. Haney was the bane of Oliver's wallet, the ultimate swindling businessman. Believe it or not, he was not based on Ebenezer Scrooge, but instead Elvis Presley's manager, Colonel Tom Parker. Actor Pat Buttram based his performance off of Parker's mannerisms. As for the governor of Hooterville, he was inspired by a guy named Ronald Reagan, former actor, governor of California, and eventual president. Reagan knew how to throw parties to generate excitement for his films, and that translated well to the governor. Follow the cues. Some of the most memorable moments in film and TV were actually ad-libbed by the actors. You know, that famous cannoli line from The Godfather wasn't in the script either. But for Green Acres, there was none of that. Everything you got a good belly laugh from was contributed by the writers. Eddie Albert sang praises for the writers, saying there was no need to improvise, it was already brilliant. They followed a few other routines to make the show a success. Hank Patterson, who played Fred, was almost completely deaf during filming, but there was no getting rid of Fred. Patterson was a fan favorite. So a dialogue coach laid on the floor and tapped Patterson's leg when it was his time to say a line. Even though the actors followed the script to the letter, they let some stuff come from the heart. Eddie and Ava were actually really good friends outside of work, and that certainly came across through their incredible chemistry. They only disagreed on Ava's feathery fashion, since Eddie was an environmentalist. But Ava said don't worry because feathers come from pillows. The two remained very close, and when Ava died in 1995, Eddie became very depressed. He died 10 years later and was laid to rest very close to his on-screen wife at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery. Purged from the record. Green Acres was a breath of fresh air since its 1965 premiere. Sure, its overall ranking slipped as the seasons went on, but its Nielsen rating stayed pretty strong. In fact, to this day it still airs. That's how much staying power it had.
It's times like these when I wish I were back at Warner Brothers.
So why did it only last 6 seasons? It's all part of that plague that came for a bunch of popular shows in the 1970s. We have a whole video dedicated to it. The Rural Purge, a sweeping move by CBS to get rid of rural-themed programs because the network thought it was giving the station a bad reputation, making them known as the Country Channel. Seriously, they were nicknamed Hillbilly Network and Country Broadcasting System, which I think is really clever. And the Rural Purge took some great ones. Mayberry RFD and Beverly Hillbillies, all while people were still enjoying them. Executives hoped this would open slots for what they thought were more intellectual programs, which would be more attractive to younger viewers for advertising sales. Series lead Eddie Albert hated this. He thought it hypocritical to take something off that viewers still liked, disappointing millions of people for the network's image, and the pressures from sponsors to go urban. Well, money talks after all. Pilot, the finale. We know that sticking the landing for a finale is hard. Many either overstay their welcome and jump the shark, or they're canceled so surprisingly the actors find out from watching the news, like Al Bundy's surprise. Green Acres had a similar fate, sort of, and dragged another show or two down with it. The final 2 episodes of season 6 feel pretty different from the rest of the show, even being a finale. That's because they weren't really a finale, they were pilots.
Everything worked out just the way I planned it.
Hawaiian Honeymoon followed Oliver and Lisa celebrating their anniversary, but it really focused on the hotel owner, Bob, and his daughter, Pam. Well, this was a backdoor pilot for a new show called Pam. After that was Ex-Secretary, and same thing. Another backdoor pilot for a program that would be called either The Blonde or Carol. And neither Pam nor Carol were picked up by CBS. And so our last 2 episodes with Hooterville barely featured Oliver and Lisa at all. Long live the pig. When the show ended, the actors were out of a job, including Arnold the pig, who basically had everyone ready to adopt a farm animal of their own. And we could track what happened to the rest of the cast, but what about Arnold? Tom Lester, aka Eb Dawson, joked that during the finale luau party, the cast ate Arnold. Oh, the nightmares. But we are happy to report this was not true. Lester just got tired of the question. And actually, Arnold was a few pigs, both male and female, all helping the character win the Patsy Award, celebrating animal performances. I am sure glad we ended on a good note and not crispy bacon. From start to finish, Green Acres is all about unexpected potential. What happens if we try something new and unfamiliar? It does nothing but open doors. And sadly, the door to Hooterville closed before it probably needed to. So let's chat. Which of the Henning creations was your favorite show? Who was your favorite character on Green Acres? Remember a funny episode? Well, get in the comments and tell me everything. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a memory. But from all of us here at Do You Remember, we want to thank you for watching.